All right, what is up, Iona? I am Connor along with my co-host Chris, and this is episode 1 of Guys Talkin' Ball. We will be discussing the Super Bowl that happened on Sunday in Arizona, along with our predictions for the 2023, very early predictions of the 2023 NFL season, along with a few other fun segments. So we're going to dive right into it. Here are my 6 biggest points from the Super Bowl. The finale of the NFL season was all football fans could have hoped for and more, besides one questionable call at the end. This was an offensive clinic by the two best teams in the NFL. Before we get into Mahomes and Hurts' performance, let's talk about the call that ended the game. So, Eagle fans and Monday morning sports debate shows were disappointed to hear that the player himself, James Bradbury, admitted to a holding foul on Juju Smith-Schuster in the fourth quarter. He thought he could get away with the shirt pulling, but ultimately that flag was thrown. Was it holding? Yes. Should that one call have decided probably one of the best Super Bowls I've seen in my 20-year lifetime? No. But it's pretty lazy to just blame one call on the entirety of the Super Bowl. Why is that? The Chiefs were by far the better team in the second half, and the Eagles defense, who has been so good this regular season, did not step up when it mattered most. The Eagles defense were number 1 in sacks this season and had the third most sacks of all time by an NFL team with 70 sacks on the whole year. Star defensive linemen like Hassan Reddick, Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, Linval Joseph, and Ndamukong Suh, and the others from the Eagles could not get to Mahomes on a bum ankle in the backfield, which ultimately led to the Chiefs doing whatever they wanted in the second half. And we got to give some credit where credit is due to the Chiefs' offensive line. If you remember, just 2 years ago in the Super Bowl against the Buccaneers, Mahomes was ravaged in the backfield. He couldn't find time to pass, and which ultimately led the Kansas City Chiefs to only scoring 9 points in that Super Bowl. Ever since then, they completely revamped their whole entire offensive line, and they deserve a lot of the credit from the win on Sunday. They allowed no sacks and giving the running game a huge sign of life. The Chiefs averaged 6 yards per run during the Super Bowl. Mahomes, with whatever you might think of his ankle injury, who knows if it was as serious as it was against the Jaguars in the divisional round of the playoffs. He had 6 rushes for 44 yards on a sprained ankle. And one of the big unsung heroes of the Chiefs season, Isaiah Pacheco, had a big day as well with 76 yards on 15 carries. Now, there's somebody else who was a mid-season acquisition by the Kansas City Chiefs that I think deserves some shine. And, whoever is a Giants fan listening, you might want to turn away at the current moment. But I think it has to be Kadarius Toney. One of the main turning points of the Super Bowl and the huge Chiefs second half offensive display was Toney's punt return in the fourth quarter with 11 minutes to go. His huge return of 65 yards, which you can give this fact at the bar or something, you could tell a pretty girl or something, was the largest punt return in Super Bowl history from Kadarius Toney. Led to a huge Sky Moore touchdown, allowing the Chiefs to go up 8 points late in the fourth. So, I mean, the way Toney played, and just I think another thing has to be mentioned is the, let's call them above average to average wide receivers of the Kansas City Chiefs. The way, and I think a lot of this has to do with the game planning of Bieniemy, Hurts, Mahomes, and Reed, but the way they were able to replace Tyreek Hill after the offseason cannot be understated. And the game plan they provided and the flawless execution of the offensive side of the football in the second half is something that will be looked at by offensive coordinators for decades to come. Let's switch over to the Eagles side of it, and we got to talk about Jalen Hurts' heroic effort and a loss. So besides his one miscue in the second quarter where he fumbled the ball and Nick Bolton of the Chiefs was able to score for a touchdown, Hurts was practically unstoppable. Here's another interesting fun fact you can spit to somebody. He had the most rushing touchdowns by a quarterback in a single Super Bowl history with 3. He also added 300 yards in the air with maybe or maybe not a bruised shoulder. Both quarterbacks were dealing with some type of ailment, whatever you may think the effect of that played on the game. That's your opinion, depending on if you were a Chiefs or Eagles fan in the game. But he threw a touchdown pass to A.J. Brown as well. And, I mean, if you're an Eagles fan at this current moment in time, it's tough to look at the positives, especially just 3 days after one of the most soul-crushing defeats you'll ever see. But I think you can go into the next 3, 4, 5 years where Hurts will get a huge payday, and he will definitely be the quarterback of the future because not too long ago, Eagles fans were telling themselves that a combination of Nick Foles or Carson Wentz was going to be your quarterback of the future. And I think there's no doubt about it that Hurts has proved more than well enough that he is the Eagles quarterback for at least the next half decade. I mean, who knows if he doesn't have that shoulder injury in Chicago, what was it, week 15, 16 of the season? I mean, he could be the MVP of the NFL regular season as well. All right, let's go back to Patrick Mahomes for a quick second. Now, this might be outlandish considering we just had the greatest football player of all time retire, but I think it is not far-fetched to say that Patrick Mahomes is on greatest of all time watch. Just greatest of all time watch. Not that he is, not that he isn't. Well, he isn't right now, but I think you have to put him on the watch. Now, normally I'm not into these kind of first take debates where people can just yell back and forth at each other, but it is attainable for Patrick Mahomes. Let's just look at the stats. In just 5 years as a starting quarterback, he has attained 2 MVPs, 3 Super Bowl appearances, 2 of those coming in Super Bowl wins, and has made the Pro Bowl all 5 years as a starter. Now, let's just assume that the Chiefs still give him the support he needs. We know he's under a big contract, 10 years, $500 million, and there's no catastrophic injury to Mahomes that could potentially derail his career. But this is definitely a real debate. So let's just say, hypothetically speaking, for now, he keeps up this pace for the next 10 years. So that would mean after his 15th NFL season, and I know we're in 2023, but we're going to talk. After his 15th NFL season in 2033, Mahomes at his current pace of his NFL career thus far will have 6 MVPs and 6 Super Bowls. Now, this is just based on his current pace. Will it most likely be yes? Will it most likely be less Super Bowls and MVPs? Probably. But this is his current pace, and it's just fascinating to look at. I mean, I have to say for myself, I don't know if you agree with this, Chris, but I think if Mahomes retires today, I think he's a Hall of Famer.
I would say yes.
I think so. He's done more than Hall of Fame quarterbacks right now could have ever done in their entire career.
People debate Eli. He has 2 rings and no MVPs. I mean, look at
Eli's whole career was made in the playoffs, but exactly. He's not a regular season guy. But I mean, please call into the show right now if you think that Mahomes is a Hall of Famer if he retired today, because I 100% do think he is. All right, now I was not doing what I was supposed to be doing in class, and I was looking on Twitter, and I saw the some clips from the Chiefs Super Bowl parade, and it was a bunch of may or may not have been intoxicated Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes talking about the media and the fans doubting the Chiefs coming into this season and saying that they weren't going to be contenders or playoff teams. And what I saw from the response from the majority of public on Twitter, and I remember Twitter is always correct, never wrong, never has infactual information, is always spitting the truth. But a lot of the replies on Twitter were like, nobody was doubting you, bro. Nobody was doubting you. You guys were the MVP. But I honestly don't think that's the truth. There is some part of it where I agree with Mahomes and Kelce. If you remember, let's go all the way back to March, almost a year ago of 2022. We had Russell Wilson being traded to the Denver Broncos, and we had Tyreek Hill leaving Kansas City to go to Miami. That was enough for a lot of people in the media today to talk about the rise of the AFC West and how Tyreek Hill was basically irreplaceable for the Kansas City Chiefs. And I think this happens in sports a lot, and I probably have been a victim of it many, many times. Probably a lot of people around me, friends, family, have been a victim many times. We're definitely prisoners of the moment. If something happens that day or yesterday, we usually really tend to jump on some sort of take or some sort of opinion that probably won't be true given a year's time. If you told somebody that Tyreek Hill was going to be the main reason the Chiefs did or didn't make the Super Bowl a year ago, you probably were somewhat correct. I probably would have agreed with you that the loss of Tyreek Hill would have made a huge impact on the Chiefs', let's just say, lack of success this season. Now, clearly, it seems like all you need is number 15 behind center and everything will work out. But in the AFC West, you had the rise of Herbert, who they ended up making the playoffs this year. People were picking the damn Denver Broncos to make the playoffs, even potentially win the AFC this year. We saw how that worked out. So I think this is a lesson to everybody listening and everybody who wants to debate sports. Let's not just jump on the easy narrative just because some type of trade or some type of quarterback or some type of head coach got hired. And remember that normally the teams that have been consistently good for a while are usually going to stay that way. All right, so that was my brief or not so brief recap of my main points of what I saw from the Super Bowl. Now, could I have spent 25 minutes on the holding penalty for James Bradbury? Yes, but that's cheap talk. And I think there was more important things to notice, especially that the Eagles couldn't manage a sack once again, and that the Chiefs scored a touchdown or a field goal on every single offensive drive they had in the second half. All right, so now we're going to transition because if you're a sports fan like us, you've probably heard just enough about the 2022 Super Bowl. So let's do something a little fun right now. Chris and I, my fantastic co-host, we are going to do a quarterback draft for the next, let's just say, decade. So no, Brady and Joe Montana are not on the board right now because they're not available for the next decade. So we have a list of pretty much all 30 quarterbacks in the NFL, and Chris gets the first pick, and we are going to go back and forth. We'll do a snake draft.
Yep.
We'll do a snake draft, and we are going to pick our quarterbacks who we would like to have. And how many rounds are we going to do? Let's do, I mean, there's 32 quarterbacks I guess we can pick from. We'll see. We'll do 8 rounds. We'll see how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
So, cue the NFL draft music. Chris, you are on the board, and I have a good feeling who you're going to go with your first pick.
You're just talking about him. You got to take Mahomes. I mean, you got to take 15. There's just no doubt. I mean, he's the best player in the league right now. So, of course, you got to grab him first. Even, longevity-wise, young. That's going to play into a factor too. Obviously, success right now, you got to take Mahomes number 1.
Easy. I think that's probably the easiest pick of the draft. I don't know. I'm trying to make a good comparison about what is as easy as a pick. I guess if somebody asked you, do you want a Diet Coke or water? Well,
I guess if you said
water.
like if we did this 10 years ago with Brady, I guess like that would be the closest.
Totally, and
that's why, like you said, like the GOAT debate. Mahomes he's up there. Like not yet, but he could be up there.
He's close, and I think part of it that has to do with is that we are so spoiled right now, where not only is Mahomes the best quarterback in the NFL, he's also 27 years old.
Yeah, yep.
So not only are you betting on at least a minimum of a decade of Mahomes staying at this way, he's already the best quarterback in the NFL, and he's 27. So that was an easy pick. Mm-hmm. Easy, good pick. That was what whoever Michael Jordan's draft was. Oh, LeBron James in 2003. There you go. That's my comparison I was looking for. All right, so obviously Mahomes is off the board. I think the second overall pick is pretty easy. I mean, you and I agree quite a bit on this player, and I think there are some fans.
I think 2 and 3 are pretty easy.
Okay, I wonder who you're going to go with 3, but unless you are from Buffalo, I think number 2 pick is pretty obvious. I'll take Joe Burrow of the Cincinnati Bengals.
I would too.
I think obviously coulda, woulda, shoulda, but I think if the Cincinnati Bengals were playing in their second Super Bowl on Sunday, I think a lot of people would have said Joe Burrow over Patrick Mahomes, considering that before the Chiefs got the win in the AFC Championship, Joe Burrow was undefeated against Mahomes in his career. Now, obviously, Burrow and Mahomes don't directly face off, but in terms of their matchups, Burrow did get the better of him. But considering that we just talked about, we did a whole segment on not to do recency bias, but recently Mahomes just won his second MVP and his second Super Bowl. So Mahomes is undoubtedly the best quarterback, but Burrow's younger, obviously had the torn ACL, but as long as that offensive line stays somewhat competent, I think he will be a top 3 quarterback in the NFL minimum for the next decade. So I'll go with Joe Burrow for my second pick.
That would be my number 2 over. I think it's going to be your number 3. I
can
take a guess who that's going to be.
Forgot we were doing snake draft. So, all right. So I go back again. So for my second pick, the 3rd overall pick, I want to take this person because I think he's going to be a Jet in the future. But it's tough to bet on just the way his play style is. I'm going to go with another quarterback from the 2020 draft class, going with the young guns here, and I'll take Justin Herbert of the Los Angeles Chargers.
Wow. I thought you were going to take somebody else.
You thought I was going to take Lamar?
No, I thought you were going to take somebody different than Lamar.
No, I know. If you're thinking of the Buffalo?
Thank you.
Him who should not be named? No. The reasoning for Herbert. So basically, I'm saying Herbert's the 3rd best quarterback in the NFL right now. Kind of. I do think so. I think Herbert is very, I wouldn't use controversial as the right word. I think he's very divisive. Obviously, if you know sports Twitter, you know somebody by the name of Emmanuel Acho on Fox Sports who calls him a social media quarterback. But I think his arm talent, he might have the best arm talent in the entire NFL. And considering that he was able to lead that Chargers team with an incompetent head coach, an incompetent offensive coordinator who has been fired, and his 2 best wide receivers who basically can't stay on the field for more than 5 plays in a row. He was able to lead that team to the playoffs.
And Star tackle out.
Yes, Slater was out too. So there's no doubt in my mind. I know Herbert, people definitely will swing another way with Herbert by saying that he might not actually develop into anything like truly all-time as a quarterback. I'm on the other side of that. I do think he's going to be an absolute stud for the next 15 years to come. All right, you're on the clock.
Yeah, well, for Herbert, bias aside, I'm not the biggest fan of Herbert. I'm not a hater of Herbert. Obviously, you hit it on. He's an amazing player, no doubt. But this one's tough. I'm in between two, but again, I'm gonna have to put the bias aside. I'm gonna go with Allen.
Oh,
I'm gonna have to take Josh Allen. He's always projected to be an MVP favorite almost the last 2 years. I'm sure next year he'll be up there. His arm, his running, he has it all. He has the ability. It's just getting over that hump of closing out a game, winning the big stage. Now, when Mahomes was down by 10, you knew the game wasn't over. With Allen, when he's down, I don't know all the facts on him coming back in games, but I don't really remember that many times where he's came back in games, and he's been the reason why they've lost many games. And a few of these quarterbacks, like Burrow, Mahomes, maybe not as much. Maybe Burrow in the Chiefs game, maybe a little bit. But again, Allen seems to be the issue for sometimes. But his talent and youth, his age is just you got to take him. You just got to take him.
Now let me ask you this: is there a quarterback more than Josh Allen who gets away with their turnovers more?
No, the media loves Josh Allen. Everyone loves Josh Allen. Like Tony Romo loves Josh Allen. I get it. He's a great guy. Buffalo, they're a fun team, fun fan base. I get it, but I agree. Like if Mahomes had all those turnovers and cost that many games, he would be crucified by the media. Allen always gets something free.
Josh Allen, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure was either tied for the most interceptions in the NFL this season or second. I'm pretty sure Prescott was first. Prescott was close up there.
He was definitely in the top for sure. And also, I think he was up there for fumble. Like people argued that same thing with Mahomes. Like, oh, Mahomes has all these turnovers too. Allen also, I think, had like 6 fumbles. Mahomes had 0 fumbles, I think.
6 fumbles.
Or
I'm pretty sure Josh Allen was
their
their leading rusher too. I think the Bills got to figure out their running back. Whatever. This isn't a running back draft.
Right,
all right.
Right.
Josh Allen probably is the right pick. Just full disclosure to everyone listening, I am a Jets fan, so it's probably.
And I'm a Patriots fan.
Yeah, so it's very tough for us.
This one hurts to take Allen, but you got to do it. You got to do it.
All right, Josh Allen is the 4th pick. I honestly think these 4 are pretty much.
This is standard.
This is pretty run of the mill. Now I want you to pick somebody I just don't agree with, so we can get into a fight. But
I know
you're on the clock.
Oof. I think. See, I'm in between 2 here, but I'm gonna go with Lamar.
Good pick. That was gonna be mine.
Good
pick.
I'm gonna go with Lamar. Everyone hates him. Oh, he's just a running back. All this. No. The guy's a quarterback. He's an MVP. If he has the right team, the right coach, right receivers, he can show out. The thing is, can he stay healthy? He's been hurt last 2 years, but thinking long term, I think you got to take Jackson. The guy's an MVP. You can't take that away from him. Again, all these guys are, they're fairly young. They're going to be able to stay around for a while. Lamar, you haven't seen him with, an elite receiver. He's made Andrews better than he really is. Andrews obviously is a great talent. I think he's made him better. So imagine him,
Side debate, Mark Andrews is the 3rd best tight end in the NFL?
I think, yeah, but I think Lamar makes him better just because he targets him so much. I
love the pick. I think
if Lamar had an amazing receiver, not even like a top like a Jefferson or like Hill, just someone better than Bateman or Duvernay, or they were playing with Deshaun Jackson this year. I think if he had just a decent wide receiver core, I think he'd be back to his MVP type season. And I think he could, again, him and Allen, they're 2 guys that the playoffs just let them down. That's the only kind of side effect of them.
All right, let's do a little mini quiz. 2 quarterbacks in NFL history have passed for 3,000 yards and run for 1,000 yards in the same season. Lamar Jackson is one. Who's the other one? He won an MVP the same year he did it.
Russell Wilson?
No, Russell Wilson's never won the MVP. It's somewhat recent. He had that stat line and he won the MVP that year.
Somewhat recent. I'm trying to think.
5.
I don't know.
Cam Newton.
Oh, Cam. Oh yeah. Well, is he on this list?
No.
No Cam?
Why the hell would he be on this list? Lamar's a great pick. It's the right pick. It was in between, for me, it was in between him and Herbert. I think I have a little more bias towards Herbert. But I don't think it's that crazy to say that Lamar's best wide receiver his entire time in Baltimore was Hollywood Brown. Who do you have as rookie year?
Yeah.
He came in for Joe Flacco. Now remember, Lamar Jackson out of Louisville was a Heisman winner his freshman year, was the 5th quarterback taken in that draft. You want to know where Baker Mayfield is? I believe he's still on the Rams, but he was a emergency backup, whatever you want to call him, quarterback. Sam Darnold doesn't know where his next team is. Mm-hmm. Josh Allen, pretty good. Josh Rosen has been out of the league for quite some time. Lamar Jackson was the last pick in the first round that year, and people actually, not even jokingly, said that he might have been better suited as a running back or a wide receiver in this league rather than a quarterback. And he's proved everyone wrong. Obviously, winning the MVP in his second full season as a starter is nuts. He's awesome. I'm not sure where the hate towards Lamar comes from. The only concern I can have with Lamar is probably just, it's an easy road to go down, but I think definitely the scariness of his size and what makes him so good is also what can make him have a very bad injury, and that's his ability to run the ball. But then again, like when you have the kind of running talent that Lamar has, you can't really hold him back because part of him being so good is that he can basically do anything out of shotgun and on quarterback runs. So Lamar's the right pick. That's a really good pick. I guess we'll do like 5 rounds because kind of going slow here, but that's okay. We're getting a good debate. Great debate, actually. Mm-hmm. Okay, so my third pick, the 6th overall pick of the draft. This is kind of where it gets a little tougher now.
Yeah, this is where the debates start to happen.
I think those probably, now that Brady has retired, I think those are undoubtedly the 5 best quarterbacks in the NFL. Unless there's somebody on that list I forgot about.
You could throw Hurts in there, maybe?
Hurts.
I mean...
Hurts. Recency bias, as I spent a whole segment talking about don't do recency bias. But I did also say that Hurts was the definitive quarterback of the future for the Eagles. So the smart person here would take Hurts.
You're taking Hurts?
Yeah, let's do Hurts.
That's a good pick.
I could do an in-depth explanation on why I picked Hurts, but you already heard my Super Bowl recap, and granted, he's had one good season as an NFL quarterback, but he's young.
Stepped up. Everyone, remember the Bucks game?
Everyone was saying, horrible.
Get this guy out. We need someone new.
They wanted Minshew week 1.
He stepped up.
They wanted Wentz to come back. No, they didn't, but they wanted Minshew week 1, and I think they were mentioning it a lot on the Super Bowl broadcast. And obviously, besides Hurts, did you know that Hurts was a power lifter? And he could squat 600 pounds. They don't mention that.
I never heard that. I have never heard that on TV.
They mention that every single game. But besides that, his leadership, and honestly, you know what? It's a very cheesy line, and it's easy for the commentators to talk about. But I think Hurts leaving Alabama and basically being told to leave, and the way he handled that transfer, and the way he was able to lead Oklahoma to the college football playoffs the year after that is actually very impressive. And for also him to be a second-round pick, and from what Eagles players have said, I don't know if it's easier to say now that Wentz is out of the building, but Eagles players have said they gravitated way more to Hurts even when Wentz was a starting quarterback. So however you value leadership is how you're going to value it. I know it's not a stat line, but I think it has a lot to play with it. So Hurts is my 3rd round pick. 6th overall is where it gets really tough. You know what? Honestly, if we made this draft a year ago today, I think Russell Wilson would have been up for debate, but you just can't do that right now.
I don't know. I mean, we're going to get into that a little bit. about the Broncos, but
You don't think Russell Wilson was top 10 before this last year?
oh no,
I do.
I agree with you. I'm saying
Like,
he
as
still
of right
could be
now?
now. I don't know. That's the thing we don't know.
All right, we'll get into that. Little there we go. Little teaser. That's proper radio right there. Okay. Oh man, the recency bias. I kind of want to go to left field for one reason. Just like either I want to pick a quarterback that's gonna have like a crazy comeback season, or somebody you just wouldn't expect.
I already have my pick ready in case you don't take him. I think I know who I want next.
Can you give me a hint?
No,
No.
You just gotta go for it here.
Is he young or is he below 30?
He is below 30.
Okay,
yes.
so I'm probably you know what? You got to make one bold pick. This has been way too chalk so far, so I'm going with my one bold pick of the draft, and I think this guy is awesome. I think people forget about how good he is. I think people forget about the season he had and the weapons he has in Los Angeles. And I'm going with Matthew Stafford. I have both Los Angeles quarterbacks. Yep. Who knows? We could be uploading this, and in a month or two, Matthew Stafford could retire because that neck injury was pretty severe from last season. But remember, when he was on the Lions and he had no help and he didn't win a playoff game, and once Calvin Johnson retired, they had no offensive support. People were like, get Matthew Stafford on a winning team and they'll be good. They'll be good. And guess what? He did what most, I want to go to a winning team quarterbacks do. He didn't. He did what most of them couldn't do. And he won a Super Bowl in his first year just because of the catastrophic second year they had with injuries and whatever, blah, blah, blah. I'll go Matthew Stafford. We'll keep it short and sweet. But I have way too many young guns, so I want a older veteran who still has the arm talent that hopefully will be playing week 1 of this upcoming season, but we don't know that for sure. You're on the clock.
So I'm in between two young guys. Well, one very young, one getting more like 20. I think he's probably 28 years old. I'm gonna go with
I know you're gonna pick.
I'm gonna go Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go Trevor Lawrence.
That's who I was in between.
Because yes, he was terrible last season, but even at the beginning of the season, and everyone's like, "Is this guy really it? Is he?" I mean, and he showed up. He showed up in the last, half of the season. Now obviously, the comeback, that was obviously him included, defense, everything, bad coaching, whatever.
What about what happened before the comeback? Did he throw 4 interceptions?
That's the thing. He turns the ball over a lot. He doesn't maybe the smartest quarterback, but I mean that, Josh Allen had tons of mistakes in his first few years. His IQs when, that's definitely skyrocketed. That's why Allen's been so good, I think, recently, even from his first 2 seasons. I think Lawrence, I think he can step up. I think he can be, not maybe top 5 next 5 years. I mean, he could be, you never know. I mean, he has, the height, his running ability, throwing ability. Jaguars are putting up together a pretty decent team. So I think I'm really excited to see how he plays out next season, see if he continues that form. So I'm gonna take, I think Lawrence has good upside. I think I'm gonna take Lawrence.
I agree. That was going to be my player if I didn't go out of left field and pick Stafford. But we come back to this episode when Stafford has an MVP type season next season. Lawrence is the pick. He's the right pick. I think the Urban Meyer season, it got enough talking about, but I don't think it got enough how horrible and how toxic that situation was in Jacksonville. And Doug Peterson is a great offensive coach. ETN, basically his rookie season after being hurt all of 2021.
Knocked Robinson off the team.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, James Robinson. Shout out James Robinson. No, Lawrence is the right pick. I mean, people and this is the same thing we talk about recency bias. People forget that Trevor Lawrence was the undoubted #1 draft pick when he was a sophomore in high school. He didn't lose a single game for his whole high school career or whatever it was.
Never lost on a Saturday.
Never lost on Saturday until the division round. No, Trevor Lawrence is the right pick. All right, you make your final pick of the draft. We'll do 5 rounds.
I mean, Dak's still there. You still got Rodgers, Fields, Lance. Never call. I mean,
go for bold. You're pretty chalk. Go for Lance.
Lance is your bold pick. I'm a DC4 guy. Watson. If he's back to normal next season,
I don't know if we can talk about Watson on this show.
Pick it
football wise. Yes.
I mean Tua.
But can Tua even see 10 yards?
That's the thing. Yeah, so you got to take. I mean, he had 3 concussions.
I don't think it's an overstatement to say if Tua gets another concussion, he has to not play football anymore.
I mean, he was still listed he was hurt for 4 weeks with a concussion. He was out for 4
he's out for the Pro Bowl too.
Yeah.
Not
No,
the
I'm gonna
flag
go.
football. You have a flag football game.
Prescott. You know, I've defended Dak quite a bit. But you know what? I'm gonna go with Fields.
There you go. No, you
I'm gonna
needed
go
the
with
bold pick.
Fields.
You needed the bold pick. You
I've
needed it.
always been a Fields guy, and a little biased. I've always been a Fields guy, but I mean, the thing is, his running stats were obviously great this year, but a lot of it comes down to his poor offensive line. I mean, Fields. There's a lot of upside for Fields. He's young. Again, I'm taking all these young guys. I'm thinking more longevity with these guys. You know, Fields is kind of like a Lawrence type. If you get the right team around them, get the right offensive line, get them a couple weapons, I think they can be more than just game managers. They can put the team on their back. Like being able to run in this league nowadays is massive. So the turnovers and again the low IQ of these young quarterbacks, they'll learn. I mean, not everyone is like Mahomes right away, but
Great point. We are so easy to move on from young quarterbacks nowadays. That needs to be talked about. Next week, little teaser, we are going to talk about how Tom Brady didn't start his first NFL game. Aaron Rodgers didn't start his first NFL game. You want, and this is partially because of the Zach Wilson situation and other quarterbacks, but they want these quarterbacks in 8 weeks of the hardest position to play, not in only football, in all of sports, the hardest position in all of sports. They want these guys to be Pro Bowl level in the first 8 weeks. But whatever. That's a different debate for a different day. Fields is the right pick. Now, let's just put him up there. I'm not going to talk about actual quarterback ability, but Lamar is a top 3 running quarterback in the NFL. Kyler Murray, extremely mobile. Both have suffered pretty serious injuries. Do you worry about that with Fields?
I do, yeah. Oh, well, Fields missed 2-3 weeks this year because of
what did he
injuries?
have? It wasn't because of running though, right?
I think
it was shoulder, right?
Shoulder injury,
it was
yeah.
A shoulder injury.
He's a big guy. I think he's like probably 6'3". You know, he can take the hits, but I mean, you worry about it every quarter. I mean, Mahomes too. You know, you hit that ankle wrong. I mean, Mahomes realistically, any other quarterback, he's out for 3 weeks with that. I mean, yeah, I would worry about that with these running quarterbacks. But I mean, you have to be able to be mobile. I mean, you look at Dak though. I mean, Dak, he ran a ton. Even like Wilson, these guys, they were, they came out in college as, they're running quarterbacks, very mobile. I very rarely see Dak and Wilson run anymore.
Dak broke his foot. That was kind of
the Wilson one's a little weird, I guess, age, everything. But I mean, the Prescott one
Wilson also got fat, so I think that's probably why.
But the Dak one is a perfect example. He got hurt and he's less mobile, and it's affecting his play. So I think you have a good point.
I think you gotta take the risk. I think Fields is awesome. I think Fields was so overhated.
Him being younger. So hated, and everyone like, oh, he can't do it. That actually makes me like Fields a little bit more because I like how he kind of plays that underdog villain type role, and I think he's gonna have a great season next year. Same with Lawrence. I think the two of them are gonna really show out.
And the Bears were the worst team in the NFL, and they have the first pick for a reason. Now, it would be funny if we're talking about Fields as a top 5 quarterback, and they not likely to happen, but there's been talks about them trading the pick or drafting Bryce Love and trading Fields, which Bryce Young. Bryce Love is a basketball player, right?
Caleb Love?
Yeah, whatever. Bryce Young from Alabama. Now, that's probably not going to happen. I think Fields is a good quarterback. Right. But I like your risk pick. I like how you've picked a guy who's been in the league for only 2 seasons. No, Fields is the right pick. Fields definitely proved it, definitely down the later half of the Patriots game on Monday night, kind of, where people made realize that this guy's pretty good.
Yeah, that was a tough one, but
yeah, I'm going to give it to him. All right, so my last pick. Now, I don't think we labeled the parameters of this. Are we going quarterbacks for the next what?
You said decade.
Decade. Okay, I said decade.
That's also why I was thinking a little bit of the younger guys.
Okay, Matthew Stafford for the next decade sounds really stupid now. I honestly thought it was like 5 years.
Hey, if you get two good years out of him, win another ring in LA, works out.
Oh, 2 rings in 10 years. Who cares? I'll take it. That's what he's gonna do for us. And then Herbert and Stafford and Herbert and Burrow come in after. Okay. I was going to take Rodgers, but now that I'm happy we found out about the next decade. Honestly, you could take a quarterback for you're going to have the next 10 days. You might not even want Rodgers. You could retire in the next 10 days. Yep. Rodgers, I love you, but you just do that for attention during the offseason. You're going to be a Green Bay Packer week 1 of the season. There's my bold prediction.
You think about Mac Jones, maybe?
No. I mean, like, Watson's the right pick, but let's stay away from that guy.
The thing is...
He was football bad.
He looked terrible.
Bad guy, but also football bad.
Everything, non-football aside, his on-field play was terrible. I
It
mean,
was
that's
really
expected,
bad.
being away from the game for so long. I can't really judge Watson football-wise until next season. That's just
I
me.
agree.
You got to, I mean, he had what? He came in, what was it, week 11?
Yes, after the
So,
bye against the
yeah.
Texans. Now, you and I both have close Browns friends, and they were hoping for that one Watson performance before
Yep,
the
and they
season
never
ended.
got
They
it.
didn't get it, and that definitely worries you. I think you were hoping that once the Browns were out of playoff contention, you were hoping that Watson gave them at least a week 17 or week 18 3-touchdown, 300-yard performance, and that never came. But
Mhm.
like, I don't know. What Watson was doing when he was with Houston, with how bad that team was really, really impressive. I think he'll be fine, but
Yep.
that's enough to Deshaun Watson. He's deserved not enough talking points. Okay. My final pick, the final pick of the draft. Basically, we are saying our 10 favorite quarterbacks for the next decade.
I don't know I mean, yeah,
I'll
this is
take
a
the
tough one.
I'll take the risk with his injury history, and I'll go with Tua.
I think I was in between Dak, Watson, and Tua. I think Tua is a great pick.
Watson's the right pick, but nah.
I just can't, like I said, I can't judge him off this, last 7 games. I liked the Tua pick. I mean, they were great with him. When he was playing, the Dolphins were great.
Isn't it funny how people used to be like last year with Tua? It was like, oh, he sucks. He has no arm talent. And then they trade for a top 3 wide receiver in the NFL, and they're like, oh, it's all because of Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
By the way, if your name is Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, or Rich Gannon, whoever that quarterback was, just think of Chad Pennington, Christian Hackenberg. No matter who you are, you need talent around you to win games. So I never really got the whole because of Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and made him.
People would always be like, for Mahomes, I remember it was like, okay, Mahomes isn't good, or isn't as good as he just has Tyreek Hill, and then they reverse it. Tyreek Hill isn't that good, it's because he has Mahomes. So which one is it? So like,
No,
it
makes no sense.
It makes no sense. Exactly, it makes no sense.
Every Jordan needs its Pippen. That's just how sports work. Nobody can really
Great
do it on
players
their
make
own.
other players better, and sometimes that's just how the sport works.
Exactly. So you like your picks?
I'm happy with my picks.
Your picks are good.
Yep.
They're all young.
I would
Very,
rather
very
have
young.
had Burrow than Allen, but of course I didn't have,
Yours is strong. Yours is very
my
strong.
top 3 would be Mahomes, Burrow. I think either Hurts or Herbert, honestly. I kind of regret not taking Hurts.
Okay, I really messed up that if it's definitely the next decade. Matthew Stafford's 35 years old. So unless he be like Tom Brady and plays till 45, I'm not going to have him for the next decade. But like you said, if I get 2 Super Bowls out of the 10 years, then I'll be happy. All right, so that was our current NFL quarterback draft. Let's blaze through some quick storylines. So did the last Super Bowl just end on Sunday? Yeah, it did. Are we going to make our predictions before the free agency, before the draft, and before the whole season about who's going to make Super Bowl for next year? Yes. There we are. Okay,
it's pretty standard.
You made your pick. Now, I think this stuff is fun, and now we can look back on it and be right or wrong, which will be always wrong because it's never the 2 teams you expect, even though this is this past Super Bowl is actually the first year that the 2 1 seeds made it out of the new playoff format,
right?
Ever since they gave the 7 seed. So maybe it was chalk, and actually 3 out of the 4 teams that were in the conference championship weekend this past season were in it last year. So maybe it is going to be another chalk year. I'm going Bengals 49ers. I mean, I wish I could back it up. I can't. I'm also betting on Trey Lance, kind of, because Purdy is out for what, August?
He's gonna surgery.
6 months.
I think it's 6 months.
He's got a Tommy John surgery. First one I've heard of from a football player.
Purdy, we can debate that.
I mean, it's Purdy, but yeah.
That's
I don't know. I'm very impressed with Kyle Shanahan. He is probably my favorite coach in the NFL. I love him. He's awesome. And then the Bengals is just partially picking because I don't think the Chiefs can do it again. No, I do, actually. I really do, but it's just too boring right now after they're literally, as we speak, they're on a float celebrating their last Super Bowl to pick them to go to Super Bowl again. So we'll make it interesting. We'll go with the Bengals. I could also see the Bills, but Bengals 49ers, God knows that won't be right. But your pick?
I went with the Bengals as well. And I have them against, I was in between 49ers and Eagles. I think the Eagles are a great team. People are always saying, Eagles aren't going to actually win. They're not going to make it. They're going to lose, their first game. They're not going to get the 1 seed. Like, everyone doubted them. And I mean, what if they play any other team? They probably win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, they proved that they were an actual good team. I mean, that was one of the talking points going in, was that your 2 playoff wins came against the Giants and a team that didn't have a quarterback for 3/4 of the game. So I get it, but the Eagles proved that they were a good team.
I mean, they'll lose. I mean, I think Kazir and Edwards. I think they're both up. One will probably come back. I know they want to sign.
Jason Kelsey's retiring, apparently.
I mean, I think who is it? Is it Brad? I think Bradbury or Slay. One of
They might not want
them.
Bradbury back again
Yeah.
because one play defines your
But I
career.
mean, their offense. I mean, their defense. Everything's great. Again, it was either them or the 49ers. Hard to pick just because you don't really know what the quarterback situation is for 49ers. But I mean, that clearly doesn't matter too much, I think. And for the Bengals, I went with the Bengals again. I agree with you. Just you can't really pick the Chiefs right away.
No.
Bengals, they're gonna lose some pieces for the Burrow contract. I mean, there was rumors that they're gonna trade Higgins, which I mean, if they got to do it, they got to do it. But I mean, I'm a big T. Higgins fan. I think he's a wide receiver one.
Ooh.
I think he's a wide receiver one on that team. I think he is.
Maybe next week we'll do our wide receiver draft instead of
that'd be a good
quarterback.
one too. And I mean, they're
for the next 10 years.
Have to go to Mixon. They're gonna lose some pieces again. The offensive line. They're gonna. I think Joe Burrow is that guy. So I think he can make it. So I agree. I definitely agree with your Bengals pick.
Joe Burrow is definitely that guy.
He is. He is.
All right, we're running out of time here, so we were gonna do a segment on the surprise. I had my top surprise contenders for the playoffs next year, and then I was also gonna do my surprise disappointment teams for next year. But considering that next year won't start till September, we have time. So maybe see us again in exactly a week next Wednesday at 5:00. Tune in if you enjoyed. Let us know. Hit me up on my Iona email if you want to come on the pod or the radio station, whatever this is. And we are more than welcome to have you. Hope you enjoyed our first episode of Guys Talking Ball. Like I said, we'll be back next week for some new debates. If you have any suggestions, let us know, and have a good weekend.
For sure.